Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Garrett. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, food allergies and weight. And so are food allergies and sensitivities keeping you fat? And really how to identify those, what those mean, and then can we just eat our way to a healthy weight by avoiding those? For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Dr. Patrick Garrett. I have a concierge kind of functional lifestyle practice in Newton, Kansas. Been doing this for over a decade and really specializing in reversing acute and chronic conditions naturally. And it doesn't really matter what it is, hypertension, diabetes, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, it's all the same. We cause these things, and so my job relatively can be relatively simple because just got to figure out what those things are and get rid of those things. When it comes to weight, man, it's just the food. It's just the things that we're doing that really mess it up. I have been a speaker for a long time and national speaker, and I've done a 300-hour postgraduate course for physicians where we taught them to reverse a whole number of conditions just naturally. And really what we had to do is kind of undo what they were taught and reteach them from the ground up. I've been a national speaker, of course, internal disorders, functional medicine, clinical nutrition, and even a wonderful course on applied nutrition and clinical chemistry, where we helped physicians identify and interpret laboratory values correctly. And I was very surprised to figure out that a lot of docs don't know how to do that. So the bulk of my stuff really has been just a functional approach to reversing disease. And it all comes back down to lifestyle, which is why I'm really proud of taking several lifestyle programs, main ones through Harvard, and I've done about 27 courses through there. And it's one of the few programs where the emphasis is on lifestyle. You cause this, you could uncause this. And so that makes things very simple and especially very cheap, because it's cheaper to just stop doing what we're doing to mess things up. I've also done the lifestyle medicine program for weight management through Yale University. And that was a wonderful program of really talking about all the different aspects of where to meet that patient to get them where they want to go. And that's very important. Many people do this cookie cutter kind of thing, and it doesn't work. The statistic on weight loss for most people in America since 1950 to 2010 has always been the same. The research shows that the vast majority of the people that start a weight loss program will never stick with it. The vast majority that stick with it will never actually lose any weight. But the vast majority who stick with it, lose weight, will often gain that much weight back plus more. I think it's up to 50% more. And so that's horrible because they have never changed the lifestyle that led to that condition. There's all these quick fixes to get people to lose weight, and that's easy. But to get weight to stay off, to get them to change their lifestyle so that they're healthy, that's really where you want to be. I have several diplomates and certifications all the way from the American Board of Functional Medicine, board certified in integrative medicine, diplomate through the American College of Clinical Nutrition, and I'm also a senior fellow of the American Academy of Functional Medicine. And that's where we actually take on other physicians and mentor them through the process. So that gets to be a very interesting endeavor sometimes. On lots of boards, and I'm part of Harvard Medical School's Postgrad Association, American Academy of Integrative Medicine, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, American Board of Functional Medicine, American Academy of Functional Medicine. I'm very proud to be a new board member on Green Med Info, which is a huge provider of health and wellness information, and of course medical director for Blood ID. So that takes us to today's topic, and I really try to keep this simple because again these talks are just to kind of get you a general idea of what's going on and can these things help you, right? So we're talking about food sensitivities. Basically what are they? The leaky gut that leads to those, what is it? And then a couple case studies to really introduce this concept and then show you the benefit of it, from a patient's perspective. So what is a food sensitivity / allergy, right? There's lots of different names that we call these things. They're all kind of autoimmune if you want, but really a food sensitivity versus a true allergy. That's going to be an important definition here. And then how do these foods cause problems? So if you look at this picture here, food allergies, basically you have these antigens on top, and you can see they look like little Y's, right? Those are antibodies. And the antibodies can be either IgE, which is emergency, or IgG, which is delayed. And that little green pill looking thing, that's an allergen. And that can be everything from grass to mold to, a carrot or a tomato, let alone wheat or yeast or something like that. That's a very common thing, or milk, right? And that cell, that square there, is a mast cell. It's something that contains things called histamines. And these chemicals, when they release, cause lots of inflammation. And so no matter what it is, whether it's a Virchow's, definition of disease, that all disease is inflammation, or if you fast forward all the way to today, we still say the same thing. All disease is inflammation. And so this inflammatory process that happens is very, very important. And for IgE, yeah, that's very simple. You get rashes, wheezing, vomiting, but it's immediate. Whereas delayed sensitivities are slow, and those tend to be a lot more frustrating. So if we look at the differences here, right? So allergies, probably 99% of the physicians you ever talk about, you say, I want to get my allergies checked. Well, they're going to do what's called the IgE. And think of like, it's immunoglobulin E, and E is epsilon, but think of it like emergency room or ER, right? So these are going to be things that are immediate, like rapid onset, right? And it's going to be something that happens every single time, So it's not a confusing or perplexing food allergy, right? If I eat shellfish and my throat swells up, yeah, it's all the time. Every time I eat shellfish. I don't need to waste my money on tests to figure that out, right? And so these things tend to be very, very uncommon. They're generally non-reversible, but again, we desensitize, and we can do that. And the tests tend to have, that insurance coverage tends to have lots of false positives, so people get huge amounts of these reactions, especially if they do pinprick testing. Now take that and counter that with intolerance or sensitivity. The symptoms are very, very subtle. The reactions can take 3 to 4 days to really manifest. And so because of that, these are called IgG, or immunoglobulin G. The G, think like general practitioner maybe versus emergency room, right? In a few days I'll go see the doc. So it doesn't matter, the inflammatory response for these are basically the same. You're going to have some type of inflammatory response. But the IgG is reversible, and it is the most common thing, and yet it's the least common test done by physicians. And that's why this becomes very, very important for you to know, because you need to drive that healthcare process, right? And so, you can go online and find physicians that do these testings around you. The prices come down so much. It's wonderful. So the concentration on what is reversible, what is most common, is intolerance and sensitivity. That's the key difference here, what we're talking about. We said the end result is inflammation, right? And this chart, same thing. Doesn't matter whether it's delayed or whether it's acute, which means, right now, whether it's IgE or IgG or A or M or D, it doesn't matter. The end result is you have inflammation, which leads to tissue damage. And for this topic, we're going to talk about the disease of obesity, right? And obesity is not a disease, right? It's a natural consequence to a lifestyle. So if that lifestyle is full of sensitivities, and we don't necessarily know those, we keep eating the same foods, then we keep getting the same effect. And really, the American diet only is like 16 different foods. And so whatever we do, whatever we eat a lot of those things, right? And 75% of the American diet is addictive food. And we talked about that last time at the other seminar, that it's mostly dairy and wheat that is our diet, right? So it's not a surprise. Lots and lots of tissue damage. Now the thing that really is perplexing to most physicians and even patients is, there isn't this cause and effect. There's not this direct effect that we expect to see. And so someone might have asthma or irregular heartbeats or weight problems or migraines, headaches, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, IBS. You just think chronic symptoms. That's the real key. Is if it's a delayed sensitivity and you're eating these things all the time, yeah, it might take 3 to 4 days to really manifest as a symptom, but since you're eating those things all the time, those symptoms are going to be chronic. And so that's important to understand. If it's a chronic problem, it's most likely your food. It doesn't matter if it's gut or head or whatever, right? Anxiety, depression, it's your food. Change your food, or change your mood. Sorry. All right, so change your food, change your mood. That's one of our other talks, right? And it's exactly that. You can actually change the quality of how you feel based on what you're eating. And so the symptoms are often overlapping. So, it might be like if I eat, say, rice, I may not have a problem to that, right? Or just a little bit. But if I eat rice plus potatoes plus, grapefruit, then that adds on and adds on and adds on, and it passes that threshold, and suddenly I have a symptom. And so then again, well, what is it? So today I ate a taco, and 3 days ago, today I ate a taco and I have a migraine. Well, I say, well, okay, well, it must be the taco. Well, wait, last time I ate a taco, I didn't have a migraine. So now I'm confused, right? When I eat rice, I get a headache, but not every time I eat rice. And so these overlapping symptoms with the delayed part of that really, it's just very difficult. Probably the toughest patient we had where we didn't do the lab testing, we just did a calendar and had to write every single thing she was eating and every symptom she was having. We did this over several months, and it came to find out that she had this weird lip swelling, right? Just her lip would swell up really big, and it turned out to be the wheat berry bread. And it took 5 days. But every time she had this symptom, you could look back, and that's what she ate every single time. And that was, it was brutal doing that. It's so much easier to just do a lab test. Often, these foods are going to be very healthy foods. That's the real hard part. We had this girl that was covered from eczema from head to toe, and her parents have exhausted everything, and nothing was really working for this kid. And they said they couldn't afford the test back then, and so we said, well, what can we do? Well, we can kind of guess, right? And I can pick some foods that are probably not very healthy and stay away from those, and let's see what happens, right? So I said, stay away from GMO stuff, stay away from corn, stay away from wheat and gluten and dairy, and let's see what happens. Well, within 2 weeks, about half her eczema was gone. It was awesome. It was so incredible. But the rest didn't go away. And so there was other foods, and so I told the patients, the little girl's mom, this is something else. It could be healthy, and we have to do the test. And so we did the test, and her mom was just bawling because she was feeding her kid these healthy foods. She thought she was doing the right thing, but it was almost all her allergens, and not only her allergens or sensitivities, but the severe ones. But this is really good, right? And so I tried to tell her it's really good because now we not only know what to stay away from, but we know the things that she's not sensitive to. And within a matter of a couple weeks, almost all her eczema was gone. She just had a little bit behind her ankle, and it was wonderful, wonderful. But who would have thought, to cut out carrots and broccoli and cauliflower and these healthy kind of foods? Without the test, you just don't know. So sensitivity or allergy, it doesn't matter. Inflammation is the problem. And for this topic, we're talking about, that inflammation is going to be at a cellular level, trillions of inflamed cells, you're going to be overweight. And that's why it's so easy when people really switch those foods that you see them go down in weight very, very quickly, and maintain it because they're not chronically bloated at the cellular level. So lab testing is going to be preferable. I mean, you can guess, and we can certainly do that. We do that with some patients sometimes, right? But really, it's worth the test. I mean, I do very, very little lab testing because unless it's going to change what I'm going to do with the patient, then it's not an acceptable expense to me, right? So, if we test something and it really changes what I'm going to do with them, that's important. So I don't want to test like aspartame and ibuprofen and Tylenol. That's ridiculous. I'm going to tell them not to take those in the first place. But when we start testing things like millet and quinoa and salmon and tuna, that's huge, right? That's going to be the things that we're going to tell them to eat, so I need to know if I'm making the right decisions here. The results are very, very easy to understand, and really it's just makes success for this really easy. So the test looks like this over to the right. We'll go through this a little bit blown up here, right? So this patient here, this was a pastor. He was a really nice guy, but he started to have a lot of depression and fatigue and gaining weight. And so, I said, well, if it's chronic, it's something you're chronically doing, and it's most likely food. So let's look what you're eating, right? And on here, look at his allergy to almonds. I would have told him to drink almond milk, not dairy, right? Hazelnut milk is even high. Flaxseed milk would be high for this guy, right? Eggs, which I really like eggs, and even coconut milk. This guy can't do it. That's not the right decision for this guy. And look at something like cantaloupe. Cantaloupe's a number 2, right? That's insane. So the ones that are red are the ones that have inflammatory responses. They take a little drop of your blood, and your immune cells are in there, which have your memory cells, and then it has the antigen from the food, and they just look for an inflammatory response. A small one gets a 1, a large one gets a 3. And so you can see, based on there, is this a small reaction or a large reaction? And my goodness, I mean, that's crazy. Crazy, but you wouldn't guess these things at all. In fact, you would recommend these things. This is the second half of that page, and of course, dairy is no surprise. Even the casein in dairy he's allergic to, and the cow's milk and goat milk, well, that's fine. I wouldn't want him to drink milk anyways, but there's a second page, like millet, we have people recommended for that. Rye we wouldn't want people to eat because of gluten, but rye is just really high for this patient. And sunflower oil that's at the bottom, sunflower, right? Sunflower seeds are really good, but sunflower oil is often what things are cooked in. And so those processed foods, you got to look at those now. Those are going to be things that then just cause this general inflammatory thing going on with this patient. Peanuts for this yeah, I think all seeds and nuts for this guy was just crazy. And of course, you look over there on the right side toward the bottom, wheat, huge allergy. To get a 0.9, that's crazy. I've been doing this for 13 years. I probably have like a handful of 0.9s. And so not only wheat, but gluten and the baker's yeast to bake the bread. And so every time this guy's eating bread, it has tons of inflammation. If you make cake, right, add some milk and eggs, huge problem for this guy, right? So it's not a surprise that, based on the American diet, that this guy would be having problems with this. So the easy thing is to just get rid of those things, right? And all his depression, all the fatigue, all the weight improved, right? He wasn't causing the problems anymore. So food sensitivities can make you fat. They can make you sick and fat. With the sensitivities, it really makes it hard to lose weight. It really does. I mean, this is one of those things where people say, I eat really healthy food, but I just feel horrible anyways. Well, it's the food. It's those delayed sensitivities. And of course, because it's delayed, it's just very hard to figure out. And the test really, it makes it easier. Otherwise, just do a food log, a really comprehensive food log. So, of course, people then say, well, what causes these food sensitivities, right? Well, you call them so the food sensitivities you call autoimmune, right? Your immune system is attacking things that it shouldn't attack. Your immune system is not designed to attack carrots. And so when those T cells are released from the thymus as they mature, they are designed not to attack healthy things. So that takes us to this idea of what's called leaky gut. And leaky gut causes weight gain because of the sensitivities. So what is it? You call it hyperpermeable intestines. So think of it like a leaky membrane. Things are leaking in, and they shouldn't be, because the gut is very, very tight junctions. So if we look at this next one here, we can see a healthy gut lining on the left side, and then we can see a damaged one on the right side. Well, not only did we change the absorption because of all the inflammatory process, but if you go even below that and you look at the leaky gut here, the gut, those cell walls, do you see those little square heads, or I guess rectangle heads with the nucleus, red nucleus in the middle? And then they have little things on top that look like little fingers or hair. Those are the microvilli, which are the absorption part of the cell. And then above the hair would be the gut, which is dirty, right? That's considered outside the body. If you took a string and swallowed it, and you kept going and going, and then eventually come out the other end, right? That string is still outside your body. It never got absorbed inside your body. Even though it's within your body, it's not inside your body. So it's considered dirty. You just pull that string. No, not that way, right? Not that way. All right. So Where those microvilli are, that's where the undigested food is. That's where we are breaking down food into nutrients like vitamins, minerals, phytosterols, and amino acids and fatty acids and glucose. And that way they can absorb through the microvilli, in through the cell, and then deposit into the blood. So then we can make healthy tissue, right? Well, so another thing is the immune system. 75% of your immune system is in your gut. And you know what? It's not you. It's your gut bacteria. You are 9/10 bacteria, 1/10 human. That amounts to about 3 pounds of body weight is actually bacteria living in and on you, and over 750 different kinds of bacteria that are healthy, wonderful things that are going to keep you functioning. But what do? We kill off all those bad bacteria, or all the good bacteria too, right? Because we think bacteria are bad. So we chlorinate and fluoridate and brominate our food and water, and we kill it off. We take antibiotics, right? And sodas, and even birth control pills will do this. So that means that huge immune system is no longer there. And when we eat our contaminated food, like the USDA says that 50% of the meat that you eat at the deli is contaminated, right? And that's after they wash it with ammonia and do all these horrible things to it. So we eat these contaminated things, and when those are floating through your gut, your immune system says, oh my gosh, there's something bad here, but we don't have the immune system to fight it. And so then it requires the blood cells, the immune cells in the blood, to come out to fight that infection. And that's not the way it's designed. You fight the dirty in the dirty, and the clean is in the clean. But now we're opening the gap, those tight gap junctions between those cells. We have to open them up so that the blood cells can get out to fight the infection in the dirty gut. And when we open that door, it's two ways. So that dirty stuff goes into our blood. And now we have some problems. Not to mention that undigested food particles get in there too. Or, again, you're taking a carrot and breaking it down all the way to the microparticles to where it can actually absorb. I mean, that's tiny. And so you get, even if you get just a tiny little bit of not broken down, that's in your blood, and your T cells don't know what that looks like. It says that's not normal. You look like carrot, but not really, so let's attack you, right? Once we attack you, we're going to create a memory cell, and now you have autoimmune. Now you have a leaky gut that led to a food sensitivity, even a healthy food. So the primary cause is dysbiosis, or an abnormal intestinal growth there. So too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria. And so the reasons are obvious. I mean, antibiotics kill off everything, good and bad. And if you're selling Lysol, bacteria is bad. If you're selling Life, bacteria is really good for you. So the feedlot meat and chicken and farm raised crap, I mean, all that stuff is going to destroy your good bacteria. The chlorinated water, fluoridated toothpaste, we talked about that too. And then of course the highly processed foods, all the sugar content, that's just going to feed the bad bacteria, and that all will outweigh the good bacteria. And so you'll get what's called small bowel bacterial overgrowth, or these biofilms of bad bacteria that overtake your small bowel. So that's not good, obviously, right? And then irritation, that's the food sensitivities, chemical additives, all these chemicals that we add to food to make it look like food, taste like food, but it's not food. Those actually can cause huge problems. And preservatives, right? I mean, they're designed to sterilize food. And then, of course, aspirin, NSAIDs like ibuprofen, Tylenol, those things are going to also wreak havoc on your small bowel bacterial growth. And then bacteria and viruses. Wheat germ, GMOs, genetically modified organisms. Roundup is, of course, notorious. BT corn is notorious. Excessive alcohol consumption because it's sugar. And then, of course, those all result into a weakened immune system, which also plays a big part in this. Another huge cause, which we talk about on a lot of other talks that we do, is stress. I mean, stress raises cortisol, which then raises blood sugar, and makes you hungrier, and always equals you eventually gaining weight. So stress is going to lead to adrenal gland overproducing. That's going to really increase weight gain. And the solution is pretty simple. Stop accepting so much stress and de-stress, right? That's a whole other thing. That's something we deal with a lot with our patients, because a lot of what, just the food sensitivities, they cause inflammation, which then cause stress, which then cause cortisol to increase, which then causes disruption in thyroid and also adrenals. And the leaky gut, how does it affect you? Well, I mean, it's very different from patient to patient. Really, that's where I just go back to, okay, if it's chronic, it's something they're chronically doing. The weight, the obesity part, that's obvious, right? But these other things like asthma and allergies and migraines and headaches and chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and reflux. Reflux is like one of the easiest things to get rid of, and usually it takes a week. Same thing with like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and IBS. It takes like a week to fix those things, because it's just what you're eating. Once they make that switch, then the body stops having all the inflammation, things go back to normal, right? You're not genetically designed to be sick, you're genetically designed to be healthy. So that's what you allow the body to do. And I probably threw around the term molecular mimicry, or if I haven't yet, I love that term. And molecular mimicry is basically this concept of maybe racial profiling for your immune system. And it says, well, if you look like him, but you're not quite him, but you look close enough, I'm going to attack you both, right? And so the protein sequences, or say the social security number, or the, say, picture of what these things are that we digest or are floating around in our blood, they all have their own sequence. But if that sequence looks very close to another sequence and your immune system is slightly impaired or irritated or downregulated through stress, then all of a sudden you start attacking things that you shouldn't attack. And the long-term problem with this is you're going to end up with a third-tier molecular mimicry, which then leads to autoimmune disease like MS or lupus or Sjogren's or something like that. So, rheumatoid, it's easy because you go from Klebsiella pneumonia, which is walking pneumonia, somebody coughs on you. That bacterial sequence is very specific, but it also looks very close to gliadin that's in bread. And so now every time you eat something that has gluten in it, the immune system says, well, gliadin, you look very close to that Klebsiella pneumonia bacteria. I think we're going to attack you too. And because that person not only eats bread, but they eat bread every single day, pretty much probably every single meal, the body keeps, the immune system's reacting as if that person is getting coughed on 3 times a day, every single day. And that becomes a huge immune problem for you. So then you end up having another molecular leap for something like rheumatoid, where the collagen that wraps around your knuckles, that protein sequence looks very close to gliadin. And so where it started out a bacterial infection leads to a food infection, which then leads to a knuckle infection. And then you get rheumatoid arthritis. Get rid of the middleman, such as ditch the gluten, then you start seeing that rheumatoid dissipate, right? It's a very easy cure. And so, something like myasthenia gravis, the molecular mimic, is often the Epstein-Barr or cytomegalovirus for that, or even chickenpox, because it's from the herpes family. So that's a key part of that, and I won't go into too much of that because I don't want to bore you, but I love that stuff. It's very interesting. From the receptor site, you can see on the left side over here, we can see that the gliadin, which is from gluten, is reactive. Whereas if you go over to the right side, sweet potato does not fit into there at all. So it's non-reactive. But then there's something else called cross-reactivity, where you may be reactive or sensitive to gliadin, but also to dairy, because dairy antigen will fit in that receptor. And so suddenly you get a cross-reactivity. So not only are you allergic to one, which started out with that one, you're now allergic to 2. So over to the right, you can see that even with rice, they tend to say rice is what you want to use, especially if you're eating babies that are sensitive to wheat and dairy. But now we're starting to see rice sensitivities. So, of course, we can just do breast milk, then it's easy, right? So how do you fix this? Well, this is a big part of what we do in our practice, but lowering stress, so meditation, yoga, something called the relaxation response from Harvard, power posing from Dr. Ann Cubby, that's on Netflix. That's awesome. Those are, you know, if you lower your cortisol by, I think, 25% or 45%, increase testosterone by 25% in just 2 minutes. It's huge. And it's free. It's cheap, right? Exercise and sex, right? If you do it right, it should be lower stress. So that's awesome. And not only does sex lead to an orgasm leads to oxytocin, which is the feel-good or love hormone. And so, you know, it's wonderful. As if I have to tell you that, right? Stop eating the foods that you're sensitive to. So getting tested and just staying away from those things. Rotating your foods is always important. Try not to eat the same thing every 4 days, right? Other thing is really widen the spectrum of your food. Don't eat the same foods all the time. Eat a wide diversity of food. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and berries. And really the darker, richer colors are going to be the most nutritious for you. And when you do that, you're going to be eating a low glycemic diet. And as much raw as possible, right? Because even the studies back in the 50s showed that if you ate 51% raw, you were less likely to get sensitivities. So it's huge. Eat whole foods that are gluten-free. So don't eat gluten-free, just be gluten-free. So quinoa is gluten-free, but you know it's not starch, which is good. Chew very well. Help take the digestion off your gut and take digestive enzymes. That'll help because that'll help. Part of it is the gut healing, and so you want to take some of the effort off the gut, help make sure everything breaks down to what it needs to be breaking down to as you're reversing that leaky gut syndrome. And then rebalancing gut bacteria, so lots of fermented foods. You got your Bubby's pickles and relish that are fermented, your sauerkraut, even old school German sauerkraut, right? That's fermented. Kimchi, make sure there's no MSG in there. Kefir water, kefir coconut milk, coconut yogurt, what else? There's kombucha tea, right? That's awesome. $3 if you buy it at the store, 20 cents if you make it at home. Awesome. On my Facebook, you can see that I have a demo of how to make that, and we're going to be doing that in our club too. And then drinking water from glass that is not going to be harmful for you, right? There's a study that just came out that Green Med Info put out that I think there was 24,000 chemicals leak into your water from plastic water bottles. All right, so the proof is in the pudding, right? But not pudding. You don't want pudding. So here's our case studies. So this is really two profound cases that we had that really mark. Although they're profound, they're pretty common for us. It's losing weight is fairly easy if you just stop change your lifestyle. It's very easy. You just got to do it. That's the hard part. It's easy for me to tell patients what to do, but they got to do it. They got to want it. And really, the pain of your current situation has to outweigh the pain of change before that happens. So, all right. So we have first patient here. She's a 25-year-old female. She was a college professor. She traveled from all like the corner bottom of the state, to come see me. 5'7", 215 pounds. She said she eats like a bird. So when we were on the phone, she's like, I eat like a bird. I eat nothing. And she said, I just can't lose weight, and I just keep gaining. And she's under tremendous stress too. She takes on too much. She's type A, but what the heck's going on? And so most patients will tell you that, and then you see them at the store, and they got tons of Twinkies and Little Debbies and stuff, and frankly, you can eat like a bird, and if you eat high, dense calorie food, it doesn't take that much, right? It really doesn't. If you bike, say, intensely 20 miles an hour at the gym, you might burn 350 calories. If you go eat a Snickers and a Gatorade, you have gained weight. And so you can't exercise off a bad diet anyways. And so it doesn't take much anymore. Your average candy bar takes 22 sugar canes to make because of that much sugar, right? So even if you ate sugar cane, it'd probably be hard to lose weight. Too much fiber. So what we did was we tested her IgGs, right? We tested her delayed sensitivities. And guess what? She had a ton of them. And really, that girl that I talked about that was 5 with all the eczema, she was my #1 patient forever as far as the highest amount of allergens. And this girl beat her hands down, right? So she had tons, and she was crying in our office, and because everything she eats, she can't eat anymore, right? And when you looked at what she ate, she said she ate like a bird, right? So we have to keep a list of what she's eating when she comes in. So she drove all this way and shows us the list, and she is eating like a bird, but she's eating grilled cheese sandwich, and she's eating a little bit of bread and a little bit of toast and a little bit of this and cereal, and so everything that she's eating is going to be inflammatory. She lost 80 pounds in 10 months, and so she just kicked butt. She cried. She said she cried almost the whole way home. 3 hours. I think it's a 3-hour drive. She cried almost the whole way home, and then somewhere along there, she sucked up her tears and she said, "I can do this. I can figure this out." And so she did. She busted her butt and really created these diets and these menus that had no allergens in there. And very quickly, she ended up at 135 pounds. She went from a size 18 to a size 4. And again, this isn't about being skinny. This is about being healthy, right? You cannot be healthy, even if you're skinny, if you're chronically inflamed. And so now, one of her claims to fame is she wears her little sister's skinny jeans. So that's pretty funny. Our second one, this is a 40-year-old woman. She was a pastor's wife. She was fairly tall, overweight. Had problems all throughout childhood, and so eats her standard American diet. But she could never lose weight, and she kept gaining. And because she's in front of everybody, that makes it very difficult. So again, if it's chronic, test her allergies or sensitivities, and sure enough, she had quite a few, and they were somewhat to be expected. And she removed those foods, and she started a low-impact exercise. All she did was walk the path, right? That's all she did. And she lost 60 pounds, right, in 12 months. And now she weighs 160. Of course, she's a tall girl, too. But she lost probably, I think, 40 pounds. And she said, well, I'm just not losing. I plateaued, right? So she's still eating non-inflammatory foods. She's eating low-glycemic, nutrient-dense foods. But she's not losing weight. So she stopped, right? And so we said, well, okay, increase your walking to the point where you have to breathe a little bit harder. And belly breathe, right? And when you do that, at the minute you have to breathe harder, you're burning energy 18 times faster than you were. That's huge. And cheap, right? And so that's what she did. And the rest of the pounds came off. And so now she's to a weight that she really likes, and feels comfortable with. And that's the important part. And so, there's this weight loss program that's in our town that it says, lose 80 pounds, and it has an asterisk. Well, I read the asterisk that said, results not typical, And they said that, they said that most patients lose more weight than they gained back. And so, and they had the asterisk, and so it said, if they lost 60 pounds and they gained 59 pounds back, that's success, right? But it said asterisk on the other side of that, and it said results not typical. So it's a weight loss program where weight loss is not the typical thing. Isn't that crazy? And so we looked at ours, and we actually did all our stats, because we're not a weight loss clinic. Our Wellspring office is, but this one isn't. And what we found is everybody lost weight. It was really good, and most people keep it off. And so it's just once you change that lifestyle, that's how you keep it off. And so food sensitivities aren't the only answer. You have to be eating healthier foods, but it is a big part of a lot of people's success. And so for the people that, so it's like, well, should I do this? Is it worth the money for me? Well, if you want to be healthier, yeah, it's worth it. If you have difficulty losing weight, then it's probably worth it for you. And then if you have difficulty keeping that off like everybody else, it's, again, something you're doing. So yeah, it's very, very worth that. So it's a wonderful test. It's very simple. You just eliminate those things, and you change over to really healthy foods and really change the lifestyle. Lifestyle is the most important concept in this, right? All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope it all made sense and planted some seeds that will impact you later. Thank you guys for attending.